$48 billion industry, as much as half. Half of these dollars are spent on repeating known failures and resolving solved problems. To put this in perspective, last month I'm at an event at Lake Eola that raised $450,000 for cancer research. Really cool event. This problem is, half of those dollars are obviously going to go towards this problem that I'm talking about, but the real tragedy here is every time an experiment is repeated, that adds to the development cycle for when that cure is actually going to come through. It adds years to development cycles to cures that patients don't have time for. So that's really what we set out to accomplish with Hula. Hula is a smart notebook that's helping scientific research teams get to answers faster. We're doing this by delivering timely the right information in the right context at the right time, all done autonomously. What else was I saying here? So quick, this is our MVP. The three major functions we're trying to show here are, first, if we standardize recipes, we figure out how to do at least up to step 28. We want to focus only on step 29, and then also stop people from repeating these known failures. So if you know that baking a chemical at a certain temperature is an issue, we don't want to continue doing that. And it just actively stops them from it. So who's the team behind it? So myself, I've obviously been in the industry quite a while, along with CTO here is a rockstar developer, and along with that, and our board of advisors, have tons of experience in the industry and the skills to make it happen. In terms of an opportunity, there are 2.6 million research scientists just in the United States, representing a $3.1 billion market. And where we are traction-wise, launched the company in July. We are in alpha now and will be in beta at research teams at University of Florida, UCF, and private industry starting over the next 2 weeks. Quick slide on business model. And really what makes it different, this is a huge problem, right? So somebody else has to be working on it, obviously. The current best are what are known as electronic lab notebooks and ELNs. So think of it as everything from a Dropbox for science, GitHub for science, project management for science. All of these, it's great we're moving this information online, but remember at the beginning I said this was an information problem? Well, regardless of whether it's stuck in a paper notebook or on your Evernote, it's still siloed to that individual scientist, right? So the premise that these guys are working off of is, okay, well, individual scientist, I'm gonna go and work on new problem. Well, I can either option A, go and look through the online cloud storage of thousands of experiments and maybe find something that's relevant to my experiment, or I can just use Hula. Put this another way, finding a parking space, this is sort of the old way we would do it. You can drive up and down every single row searching for a spot, and you'll get there. You'll get there eventually, but now there's these really clever technologies that just tell you in the right context at the right time where to park. Just go to row 3, right? So really what I'm trying to deliver here is that researchers are modern-day superheroes. They are the ones that are driving what we know of as modern society, right now they have no tools that are helping them be the best versions of them. If you combine smart research teams with the right information, we can advance science in a way that has never been done before, and that's what we're moving towards. So the ask really is about spread the word. You know somebody in the STEM field, whether they're a researcher or a PI, I want to talk to them. This is my information. And the other piece is get involved. We're looking for a designer and really a data scientist. What we've done with this MVP is really just scratch the tip of the iceberg in terms of what we're going to be doing with this data. The next step would then be are we doing what experiments have better chances of success, et cetera. But yeah, I think that's really it. And then one last big shout out, come to a demo day next week. There's a bunch of really smart companies that'll be there, including this guy, Brent with Zupp. That's what I got.
we're going to open up for questions.
What was the process that you saw the issue or the problem, and then how did you go about creating everything that you did up until this point?
Sure. Yeah, so kind of the greater story there is when we first figured out this issue with Josh, I'm thinking, yeah, we're a bunch of 25 to 35-year-old research scientists. We must be doing something wrong, right? I mean, we're just stupid. So I start calling my counterparts at other research firms, and the collective response I get is, wait, it's just a cost of doing business. Well, we're a small business, so we can't afford that cost of doing business. And so I set out to actually build this internally for a separate company. But then as you start to do a little bit of research, you realize, holy mackerel, this is not just a one company problem, but an industry problem.
I have two questions for you. The first is, with laboratory research, does it really lend itself to standardizing sort of problems or record keeping in the format that you're using? And that's first. And then second, I understand that this can save a bunch of money, but are the funding sources connected to the laboratory researchers? In other words, if you got a researcher who is used to using a notebook and they don't feel the pain of the waste of money, then why are they going to use this, or how's it going to be driven by the people who are providing the funding?
Really good question. So say the first question one more time. I think I had a really short answer for it.
It had to do with the standardization of the way this material is.
Yeah. So it's not so much standardization right now. It's more about speaking the same language, right? So we're not forcing people to hit different formats. It's more about maybe you bake cakes, and when you write your cake recipe, you write a paragraph, and I write 3 lines, right? Or I write 3 elements. Bake at this temperature and do this. What we're doing is we're standardizing the language as opposed to how things are done. Does that make sense?
Yes, I'm thinking in terms of how it either accelerates or impedes adoption of this, if you've got different ways of...
So the real big value add to the users, so LIMS systems is sort of the common version now. It's a laboratory information management system. The reason why scientists hate that, I mean, they really, really hate that, is because we're adding work to what they're already doing, right? So we're saying, okay, you guys go play in the lab for a while and come out with something really, really cool. And then at the end of it, I'm going to basically add more charting if you're a doctor, right? So I'm going to say, okay, now go and input all of the information you've just learned into this cloud-based storage system that's now an online filing cabinet, which may or may not ever get used ever again. Does that make sense? So instead, what we're doing is we're doing it all inline and automatically. And did that answer the question?
I think that's close enough. But the second just had to do with connecting the funding source to the lab researchers who are going to be using this.
Sure, yeah, so the funding sources, right, so you're talking to like the NSFs of the world. The SBIR budget's $2.5 billion. Well, the value add to them is, hey, you're doling out this money anyway. Why not do twice as much science with the same budget?
Okay, well, my suggestion would be if there's some way you can connect the funding source to a requirement to use a tool like this, then I think you can spur adoption. But to the average researcher who's operating in a lab who likes using their notebook or thinks that they've got all the information that they need to know how to avoid repeating a failure, I think that's going to impede the adoption of a platform like this unless there's some way to connect it to the savings or more research or more grants or something like that.
Sure. So to kind of follow on to that, because I spent a lot of time with researchers, and I'm very much interested in how do I make your life easier, basically, right? How do I get you there faster? And so their biggest pain point, the actual individual user, not the buyer, the individual user is, I'm always out of time. We're always running out of time, always running out of money, right? We have 1 year and this much money to get something done, and so I'm constantly under the gun. Well, if you're pretty much counting on that half the time, half of your career is spent kind of stuck in the mud, I can help you make more data-driven experiments and get to that answer, so then you can take the extra funding to go work on your hobby projects.
So the final comment I would make is that, first of all, I'm very impressed with what you're doing, and I think there clearly is a need here. You should look, or I would suggest that you look at tools like Salesforce.com and look at the adoption of those within the sales industry, because there was a lot of resistance to employing tools like that, because many sales forces felt that they could do it without those sorts of tools. And so if you look at what impeded the adoption of those platforms and then find a way to avoid repeating that failure or that mistake, then I think you'll speed adoption of yours.
Really good point. Thank you.
Okay, we have a question back here.
Brilliant as a comment first. The question afterward is similar but a little bit different. One, the data, I want to confirm something. You're saying the data that's going in is anonymized, correct?
Say that again.
The data that's going in is anonymized. In other words, source A doesn't know that source B put it out.
No. So in the world of research science, information is the currency. So if team A knows how to do something, that's better than team B, right? So it's very much internal research. Yeah.
Okay, so this is designed for specifically internal application, not a universal application.
Yes. Yeah, there's publicly available wikis that have processes out there, but that's really not as valuable as this.
Okay. The next thing is the behavioral side of this. It's a following up on the other gentleman's question. The adoption is always an issue. Out of the people in your own department, how many of them are still on paper versus electronic?
It's about 50-50. So it's like some people like to use the Evernotes of the world. Some people like to use paper. I mean.
Okay. Is this strictly in form of PC right now, or is it being developed as a mobile app?
It's a web application.
Okay. I'm going to point you away from the web and get you onto mobile, and strictly mobile, and make it nothing but tablet-based, because then your researchers who are used to writing, you can hand them a tablet and a stylus and say, write here instead.
That's certainly what's the kind of the next evolution of this, for sure.
But other than that, it's brilliant, and I'm going to pose a challenge for your next product, that you guys find a way to make it an open source thing, a newer version of this that is a spinoff that is open, so that you can deal with somebody in Russia or China or Japan or India and get those things. And let's start researching on a global scale instead of this microscopic scale.
That 100% was the motivation initially, but if you're looking at kind of aligning everybody's incentives, right? So if you're aligning business incentives by doing it internally, you're aligning like science incentives, and so the next step of that would be, okay, what piece of your research do you want to start open sourcing, right? But that needs to be on the customer's onus.
Good morning. So I think I'm misunderstanding something. So this is closed off to only a specific amount of people, and that.
So think of it as company specific, right?
Okay, you're very limiting yourself, aren't you?
Absolutely not, actually.
No?
So think of it this way: how the research process works. So funding agency comes in, it says, here's very specific problem we want company X to solve. You guys have 15 guys working on this problem or have a specific expertise in this area. What we'll do is you'll get together and those guys will go and read all of the public information, papers, try to see if anybody else is working on it, but then come and internally iterate on what's going on based on what they know as individuals and as teams. But it's the information becomes much more valuable on an internal basis for mostly trade secret reasons, but then also there's some ITAR that spills into there as well. Does that help? There are publicly available wikis, basically online file storage places where you can go look at stuff.
Okay, probably going to cause a little trouble here, but number one, I was really impressed to see Michael Judith on your team. And that's what adds credibility, is who's on the team. The other thing, though, is being so closed and being company specific, it's just another way of looking at this is that exchange of information. We don't understand how we can be so segregated, even from the rest of the world, as a country. So, what really triggers this thought pattern of where I'm going with you is right up front, you were talking about the 450,000 for cancer. Well, how come everyone in America doesn't know cancer was cured in 1931 and a Nobel Peace Prize went to Otto Warburg, but the rest of the world knows it. It would save a whole lot of people, a lot of research and development. And there's 7 cures since. So, I mean, what I'm saying is when you're so compartmentalized, the exchange of information could be benefiting the wrong people, the people that are trying to control the finances of different industries.
So you're right, but my answer to that would be that think about kind of the business motivation, right? So always follow the money. Right now we're having issues of having guys on a team of 5 not step on each other's toes. Let's make this so we have 15 researchers on 3 separate teams. Let's have those guys get smarter. I want to make that research team smarter, and if we can make that smarter, then the next evolution would be to do something like that. But you can't go from individual siloed to global sharing. It doesn't work that way.
Then I'll just end with this: there may be down the road you might have a little.
Oh no,
ancillary-
100%.
Well, no, I'm not talking about the shift of that, but an ancillary income stream, which would be a social network for research and development people, so they could communicate on a larger scale.
So one of the funny, that's a funny point, and that really ties into the psychology of the customer. So you hear a lot of kind of consumer-facing products where it's very standard, but understanding how a researcher actually operates is really important. There's a number of Basecamp type project management online tools. We're going to collaborate online and it's going to be sweet, but nobody uses it, right? That's just not how researchers think. Researchers are innately curious people that want to figure out problems on their own, right? So I'm to that parking garage example. I'm going to go and I'm going to park anyway. If you give me some information that's useful to go do that, that'll help me get there faster. That's the way to do it, is to sort of actively use that information and and put it in a context that's useful to the entire research team.
So, just curious, are you planning on offering this as like a subscription, or is this like a one-time software purchase?
Sure, yeah, it's an enterprise SaaS model.
All right, we have time for one more question.
What are you doing about the liability of a possible information leak or like hacking?
Really good question. Apparently, cybersecurity insurance is really expensive. No, so basically what we've been able to do is we can offer the same level of security that your bank can offer with online. So that's the industry level security, right? So there's Amazon Web Services offers 99.999% reliability, and you can put encrypted firewalls and yada yada, but it's still on the cloud, so there's still a chance. But honestly, any computer connected to the internet is at risk, and so I trust the guys at Amazon to pay attention to that more than me. Does that make sense? So. 100%. Yeah, so how these type of softwares typically work is kind of the lower price point ends up being a cloud base. So like your 5 to 25 researchers, that ends up likely being a cloud-based solution. But then if you're at a certain point, at a different price point, yeah, you definitely do local installs on the inside of somebody else's firewall and let them maintain it. But it's just a different price point.
Okay, so we always ask this last question: what can we do here today for you?
Sure. So, couple of things. One of the things is let people know. If you know people that are working in research science, whether they're students, whether they're PIs, give them my information. Like I want to talk to you. I want to talk about the problems that you're having, and I want to see how that we can work together to do better. And then secondly, we need a rock star designer sooner than later that we'd like to add to the team. So if you know somebody looking for an opportunity like that, send them my way.
Oh, do you have any special hashtags we need to use to trend you guys?
Oh, apparently I'm bad at the social media thing. Smart science, STEM would be good.
Smart science, STEM, tech, those are all good. Research is another good one. So use those if you're going to be following him and help spread that word.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you. Okay, so we're gonna take a break while we switch presenters. We actually got to switch computers. You can go ahead and have some more coffee as we take the break.
Here's Brent's card so you can do the intro.
Okay.
All right. And
1 Million Cups is a weekly educational program developed by the Kauffman Foundation.
Over the years, we've added more cities. Creates a great energy here to see what's happening across the country.
What I've learned from other entrepreneurs is very, very valuable.
Sitting in a room with other people that have ideas too, it helps people to leave thinking, you know what, my idea is worth something. It's worth pursuing. It's worth going after it. Even if it looks like a challenge, I should still go out and try to do it.
Without further ado, again, I will present to you Brent Henderson, founder and CEO of Zupp. So,
go ahead. Thank you. Hey guys, my name is Brent Henderson. I'm the founder and CEO of Zupp. So, did you guys have any idea that earlier this month there were 50 artists that performed on the streets of downtown Orlando? One man performed a Star Wars trilogy at the Dr. Phillips Center. The Solar Bears had their season opener at the Amway Center. And a man was shot out of a cannon on Wall Street for a new Captain Morgan promotion. all on the same night. Were you guys sitting around wondering if there was anything cool or interesting happening in Orlando? If you were, don't worry, because we've got an app that's going to help you find out what's going on in Orlando, and that app is called Zupp. And what we aim to do with Zupp is put what's happening in Orlando in the palm of your hands. So let's take a look at the app. So when you pull up Zupp, it'll give you a feed of what's happening tonight in Orlando. So you'll see tonight the Orlando Magic have their season opener. Venue 578 has Duke Dumont performing, and Casa has Unwine Wednesday with unlimited wine tasting and appetizers. But it doesn't just tell you what's happening, it also tells you what's most popular. And you can know what's popular based on the number of what we call Zupp votes, which you see are the numbers on the right hand there. So let's say you're interested in Duke Dumont, you're interested in going and you like that artist, you can Zupp vote it, and so that number 10 is going to change to an 11. So you can also see what other people in the city are saying is most popular. Now let's say that you had a specific experience that you knew you were looking for, like you wanted to go to a sports bar that served craft beer that was located downtown. You can use the filters, which is up in the upper right-hand corner, and it drops down with some of those options to narrow down that feed. So let's say tonight you wanted to go to the Orlando Magic game. So you go to the game, you have a great time, you're leaving the Amway Center, and you don't want the night to end there. So you pull up Zupp, and you see what's going on. You see that live music's going on at Casey's, so you want to head there, but you're not sure what Casey's is. So you click on it, pulls up their profile page, you can learn a little bit more about it. And we also believe that a great night out is also a responsible night out. And so that's why we added a feature called Ride There with Uber. So if you click the Ride There with Uber button, it's going to pull up some of the options to take an Uber to that venue. It'll tell you how much it's going to cost to get there and how far away the Ubers are. You can execute that right in the app, and you're on your way. And you have a great night out. So how about our traction to date? So we launched about 10 weeks ago towards the start of Starter Studio. And we have over 1,700 users, over about 72 daily active users are using Zupp in Orlando. And so with our current trajectory next year, we'll be influencing a little over $4 million in nightlife and entertainment spend based on people deciding where to go when using Zupp. So who's interested in those dollars? Well, for one, the alcohol brands are really interested because a lot of those dollars are being spent on drinks. In fact, they spend over $2 billion in advertising per year to attract that audience. But unfortunately, they're still using some traditional forms of advertising, such as newspapers and magazines, but our attention just isn't there anymore. What they're lacking is targeted and timely marketing. So being able to advertise to the right people at the right time in the right place is what they're missing, and the only way to do that in today's world is through mobile. So they have dozens of promotions going on every night. They're giving away free drinks, free giveaways, but none of us know that any of that is going on because we don't find out until we get there, and they don't have a way to get the word out there. So that's one of the ways that we're planning on monetizing this, is allowing these brands to create what we call sponsored experiences, which are actually going to add value to the users, as well as give them what they truly want, which is connecting with the local market and being able to send them targeted messages. So let's say Susie and Sally are out there on Church Street promoting for Bud Light, whereas you might not know about that until you get there. They'll be able to put a post in the feed, and then you can find out that you can get a free Bud Light over on Church Street. So currently, some of the ways that people are finding out what's going on, a lot of people are actually still using newspapers and entertainment magazines, but it lacks real-time information. So we can't, it's not effective enough. Time is so precious for us that we don't have time to flip through all the pages to find what we're looking for. And some people bring up Yelp as another local discovery method, which is also something that I use, but what they provide is historical ratings based on past experiences, but they're not telling you what's happening right now, and that's the problem that we're solving with Zupp, to find out what's happening tonight. And so here's the members of our team right now, and we believe that we're the right team to execute this idea because a little over 4 years ago, I started a company called Party Tutor at UCF, And Party Tutor is essentially Zupp, but for college students. And so it proved to be a huge success at UCF with over 80,000 downloads, and it's still in existence and flourishing at UCF, Florida, and Florida State. So next time you're looking for a great night out in Orlando, or you're looking for something interesting to do, pull up Zupp and try to look for something that you're interested in, and start experiencing more of what Orlando has to offer. Thank you. All right, let's do some questions.
Got a question back here.
All right.
I really like your concept. I think it's really cool. How does the information get uploaded? Is it the people who, say, of Casey's, do they put up the information, or do you guys just scour the internet and see what events is going on through Facebook? How does the information get up there?
Good question. So we have to create an infrastructure that allows that information to be there. So we're doing a lot of things right now. We're doing all kinds of things. We're doing boots on the ground. We're forming partnerships with these venues. We're also trying to help them out by managing what they're posting on social media so that they don't have to do as much work. So we're forming a process on the back end that's making it really easy for them to update what's going on. And as we grow, they're going to see more value in sending us that information. And so it's just important for us to continue to grow the user base so that those partnerships become easier to form. And eventually we want to become the resource for finding out what's happening around you. And so we're building that infrastructure on the back end behind this. But for the user, we're not relying on user-generated information because to provide the best service for the users, we've kind of got to do the legwork to do that.
Good concept. Totally doesn't suck. That said,
but not brilliant.
That said, I work with artists, creatives of all kinds, singers, songwriters, poets, painters, authors, sculptors, all of them.
Cool.
One of the things that they're always doing is griping that nobody knows about their events. And it would be nice to be able to put those events up somewhere. So the first question I have is there an option for small operators to say, hey, there are 5 artists here in downtown off of Church Street that night for, selling art? One. And the one after that is, have you reached out to someone like Eventbrite yet to incorporate ticketing into those events directly and also pulling up the things that people do put up there?
Good question. So we really want to encourage anyone who has anything going on to send it to us. And so we do have our limitations. We are cutting this off on nightlife entertainment, which certainly artists exist in that realm. So we want to encourage that. And right now we are focused on downtown. So if somebody sends something in Winter Park, we have to, we want to build that relationship. But until we launch in Winter Park, we won't be able to put that on the platform. But we want people to send it, and we want to get as much information on here as possible. And that's the problem that these bars have, these artists have. It's all so fragmented. Social media is great, but only your followers can find it. If you don't go to Facebook to say, hey, let me see everything going on tonight, because it would take you a long time. And so we're putting that all into one source to make it easier for all parties involved, both people going out and the people who want to attract new audiences and new fans. So we want to eventually give artists also a platform where they can update it and where that's more fluid than just emailing us, which is currently how they can reach out to us. And then the second part of your question, did you have a second part?
Have you reached out yet to a company like Eventbrite to get their because I have 6 events in Orlando in downtown in the next 30 days. It would be cool if they would show up on there.
Yeah. Okay. So one feature that we didn't show is an upcoming events feed. And so on the upcoming events feed, you can click on the post and it will pull up a link to get tickets. So we haven't worked out the affiliate deals, but we will be once we get more of a user base approaching Ticketmaster, Eventbrite to work out some affiliate fees, and that will be another revenue stream. And we're also incorporating those ticket links to go on the Today feed, what's happening tonight, so you can buy tickets right from the Today feed. So as far as reaching out to them, I don't think we're at the point of user base, but certainly those are partnerships we'll want to form.
So what's your plan to scale this? If everything has to come through you right now, that obviously makes it really difficult because you're curating all the information and then having to put it on your app for everybody to be able to see. So what kind of rollout do you have to move to Miami and then, wherever else?
Yeah, good question. So one of the reasons that this doesn't exist very many places is because it does take a pretty large infrastructure to keep up with the information and also to get it to a point where it actually makes money. And so, so how we plan to scale is we just crush it in Orlando first. We have to just, blow this thing up, get a lot of people using it, and, make the business model work here first, and then and also just really perfect the system of how we approach these venues, how these partnerships work, get really clear on that so that when we approach them, we know exactly what we're going into. We know exactly how quickly it's going to grow. We know exactly how we're going to market it in new territory. So those are all things that we're working on getting, building a really good system in Orlando so that it scales quickly. So we're not going to run too fast. We're gonna do a really good job here in Orlando first, and then grow fast once we have that system in place. So there's still things that we're figuring out, but with my experience with Party Tutor in the last 4 years, I've been wanting to start this business for 4 years, so I've been thinking a lot about it. So I have some good ideas for how it's going to scale and how this business should work. But scaling is going to be a challenge, and the first step is getting the app to a place where, okay, this is something that would be really valuable in every city, and I don't think we're there just yet. We have still some new features that we're going to be rolling out to do that, but so those are some of the things we need to accomplish first.
This is just a question for more the user area. Obviously, you follow the money, the big alcohol brands. That's like where the incentive is, but for me, it's like I'm not a big partier. I don't like going down to the bars. Like, that's not really my scene. But when I want to find out what's interesting in Orlando, it's really hard to know what's up. Do you guys have any plans on expanding into different areas of events that are not just focused on downtown or anything like that?
Yeah, so
Different
good question,
categories.
good question. So we get that a lot because not everyone cares about going to the bars, but people like to do fun stuff that interests them. So 2 things. One of them is that we're going to be implementing a new feature soon whereas right now it's kind of a one-size-fits-all feed. So besides the filters that you can use at the top, but we're going to make it really easy for you to shift over to a certain category of events, maybe arts and culture or live music, so that you have a feed of just those things that you're interested in and that you're in the mood for right now. And the other thing is we have to move towards more personalization, so allowing you to put in your interests, allowing you to Zupp vote what you like so we can start learning what you do like. And then provide you recommendations matching you with what's happening and what you're interested in and in the mood for in that moment. So we have to do all those things, and a lot of that is on the development end that we have to get done right. But we need to move towards personalization because time is our biggest asset. So we can't afford to be searching all around. We have to, if we're going to start experiencing more, we have to have an easy way to find out what we're interested in. Oh, where is that? Oh, there you go.
Yeah, he kind of answered part of my question. You kind of narrow it down, seems like, to a target market of 18 to 25 compared to the events and the parties and the clubs and things like that. So that was one thing I was curious about. He kind of answered that question.
Yeah.
It looks like you're looking to update it eventually. Another thing is, how far do the boundaries extend from the Orlando area? Like, say I want to do something in Windermere, for instance. Could you show me something doing Windermere? Is it strictly narrowed to Orlando boundaries?
Right now, good question. So what are the boundaries? So right now, we are very focused in downtown. So that's where most of when people are going out, when locals are going out, it's happening in downtown. But Orlando's a big city. There's a lot more than that. And so we still have some work to do to really get things rolling in downtown. And then once we see the demand for it and people start requesting that, and so one of our growth strategies, we're still talking about maybe, if you want to see it in Windermere, then we have to get 100 people to like our Facebook page or to, figure out how they can download the app and, request the city. We're still figuring out the best way to do that, but it might be one of our growth strategies is getting into these new areas is seeing the demand first before we put in the resources to keep all of that up to date consistently. So right now the Today feed is downtown, but the upcoming events are all over the city, but mainly just the biggest events that are happening. So we do plan to expand. I mean, eventually we want to be everywhere, so you can find out what's happening around you wherever you are.
Apparently there's a lot of questions. Mine is regarding with Uber. Did you guys really create that partnership? Because that link that you guys created is an awesome little shortcut, and I think definitely would get a lot of people's attention. But for someone who doesn't have Uber, is it gonna force them to have to install it, input their information, go through all that hassle, instead of just taking a walk?
Well, you can still take a walk.
Yeah.
But if you want to. But you know, Uber clearly has a large share of the market, and although there are competitors, we figured that that's going to be our best source. And so we actually are partnered with a company called Button, who wraps up their API, packages it up, and presents it in a really beautiful design that's really seamless. So we partnered with them to integrate it, so it was a little bit easier than us doing the API, you know, working with the Uber's API ourselves. And so, you know, it's kind of, you also can see the walking distance from where you are when you pull up a profile, so you can find out and determine that. But overall, it makes it even easier for you to choose to not drink and drive. So that's one thing that it does.
Speaking of Rollins, since we're all here, my daughter and I attended a Discover Rollins event this last weekend, and the Student Government Association is talking about how they're trying to get all of the Park Avenue restaurants on the meal plan here. I'm wondering for you, why don't you just crush it with the universities first? If you already have FSU, UCF, UF in the program, and if it's going to be so difficult to just get Orlando concentrated, why not take the platform and expand it through universities first to be able to get some legs and then take your Zupp app to the world?
Good question. So it's kind of what I've been doing with Party Tutor, growing that. Some of the things I ran into was just there's not, even though colleges, people are frequently going out and these are big schools, it's still not big enough to really capture the right advertising dollars and marketing dollars. The business model isn't as scalable as it needs to be for this to grow fast enough. So I'm kind of made the decision to take what I've learned and still continue those Party Tutor at those schools, but the timing is right and better than ever to do this on a big city level. And so there's greater opportunity, there's more partnerships to be formed, and there's more money being spent, there's more money trying to attract the audience who is the young professionals. So there's a lot of moving parts with this business, but there's a lot of factors that make this really appealing to move from the college to the big city and start growing on that level.
The only comment I would add to that, and things have changed, I know, but going back 15 years at the onset of location-based services, there were a ton of companies that came out wanting to leverage a smartphone and interest in advertisers, for example, to get people to come in and take advantage of either deals or proximity or something like that. So the history is littered with companies that have not been able to make that idea scale. I'm not suggesting that you're among those, but I'm saying there's a history that you want to make sure you don't repeat as you find a way to scale your business.
Definitely, yeah, and I've seen it. You know, starting Party Tutor in 2011, I've been monitoring the hyperlocal marketing industry and seeing the Groupon wave, and then a lot of companies burn and crash, especially in the last 5 years. And so, you know, I'm pretty confident that this idea is different than anything that I've seen, and it hasn't been executed well enough. So, but that's a good point to bring up. But I'm prepared for that battle. Yep.
This is a user question. Okay. I understand that nightclubs and bars have their business relies on a large flow of people.
Right.
So,
yeah.
Using the app, the popularity feature can I like any bar, or do I have to be at the bar to like it? Mm-hmm. And will that show me how many people are there? Because I don't want to go to a place that it's overflowing in capacity. So if I want to go to a smaller venue, do I have to be there to like it, or can I find out where? Yeah.
Good question. So for the Zupp votes, you don't have to be there. It's kind of two. If we did check-ins to see what was popular. First of all, a lot of people don't feel like checking in, so we might not have the most accurate data. It would also be too late by the time people are already there to find out what's going on. So we wanted to make the Zupp votes kind of part of the planning process. Like, what are people in the city interested in doing? So you can do more than one, whatever you're interested in. And eventually, we also want to add the social feature of seeing what else your friends have Zupp voted, see where they're going. So we want Zupp to be more part of the planning process so that when you get there, you're not on your phone, but you're instead enjoying that experience. So it's part of the planning process and part of discovering where to go. And so there aren't limitations to answer that question of who can Zupp vote it. But we also wanted to do only up because we know that a lot of the bars would spam all the rest of the other bars. So by doing only up votes, it has more of a consistency and it's more realistic.
Okay. My pre-comment to the comment. The Zupp app would have an interest to those that are looking for where the crowd isn't too, but that's not what the real thought was that was prompting me. Use the word resources in order to expand. So at some point, that becomes an issue. What I see typically with most of the presentations, anywhere I go, no one has reverse engineered anything. They're not even sure what that means. And that means knowing the beginning from the end. And so if we don't do that, we can't really build the strategies. We can't come up with the milestones. And so I look at this, and any vision to me that isn't being proposed as a global vision is merely the seed of the dream. And money is attracted as much to the vision that when it's spoken from a larger vantage point of a global vision as it is to the team. But otherwise, it's always going to be the team. And the first presentation today showed a team, and the second presentation didn't, which just showed that one was looking to get funding one day and one isn't. And so I'm sure everybody's looking for funding because it always takes more time and more money than we can ever imagine. So I could do an hour download on what I see and don't see in a 6-minute presentation, so I'll spare you.
Was there a question there?
Yeah, well, the question is, if you're going to go to, I'm seeing Zupp, Geneva, Switzerland, Zupp, Dubai, Zupp. So it's a matter of being able to build this so that there are ways for it to become attractive. But you're right, you've got to build your prototype. That would be like with any franchise. You just don't want a franchise here, you want a license here. Is that what you have in mind?
So good question. We want to build the infrastructure here in Orlando. And so we want to grow as the user base grows and as we're able to bring in revenue from that user base. So we want to provide a really solid foundation here and be able to do a lot of the work at the corporate level here in Orlando. And so it starts with the three of us really hustling to get that information, to get a lot of users, to get a lot of partnerships. And then as we start to get different advertisers and revenue coming in, then we can make those hires and then really get the cash flow coming in to fund us to the next cities. So we're not looking at raising money right now. Party Tutor has funds coming in, and so that's kind of our investment right now. I'm just reinvesting everything into Zupp and with Party Tutor where it needs to be. So that's kind of our investor right now, and we think that we can scale this pretty well without getting an investor. The question becomes, can we do it fast enough? And so that's what we'll have to face.
What's up, Brent? Over here.
Oh.
Hey, buddy.
Yo, what up?
What's up? Are you looking at integrating video marketing content into some of this? So, for instance, you're filtering by friends and by location. You walk out of the Magic game and you get a quick 30-second advertising clip that's not necessarily what you're used to, maybe something that you're building that's integrating an experience that you could have by going to certain bars or, how much we love bar crawls or whatnot, but that kind of integration.
Yeah, so clearly video is a big part of what we enjoy to consume. So we're certainly looking at video as far as allowing these venues to put videos instead of a flyer, and that's going to make it more attractive. It's going to make the app a better experience. As far as advertisements, one thing that we're really cautious of is making money any way that doesn't actually add value to the user. And so if we have a Bud Light advertisement and it's kind of like a beer commercial, unless it's something that's extremely creative that we think that people are really going to enjoy to watch and not feel like it's an advertisement, then we'll do that.
Yeah, and I'm thinking more like Wall Street would work with you to create a video showing that guy shooting out of a cannon, so that next time someone walks by Wall Street, they see something like that, or they're getting a video content.
Yeah,
that's
I think
that quality.
I think that that's really interesting. I think that I think that it's important to use video. I think that it's something that we're gonna build into it. It's just right now these venues aren't putting out much video, and that's something that we're gonna talk to them about and find out why. And so maybe that can be a monetization strategy, helping them make videos to make their place look more exciting. So that's a good point that I'll think about more. Yeah. Yep.
This question is just geared towards marketing. What are you doing to build awareness of Zupp and to get app downloads?
Good question. So how are we going to get app downloads? So we have a lot of users at UCF that we're slowly kind of transitioning them over. Use Party Tutor when you're going out locally, but if you're going downtown, check out Zupp and find out what's going on there. And of course, when they graduate, they'll start, and if they stay in Orlando, they'll use it. But so we're doing a lot on social media. So that's kind of that's how I built the entire Party Tutor business, was through social media, putting out creative, unique content. So Instagram is where a lot of the attention is. So we're putting out good content on there, getting a lot of followers there, and then also running some Facebook and Twitter advertisements, really creative ways to not pay as much as maybe some other companies are paying for those ads, so that we get higher click-through rates and higher downloads. So we're spending a lot of time and attention on social media to get downloads, both paid and organically.
Awesome. Well, I'd like to speak with you afterwards. I have an app for the town of Pawleys Island, South Carolina. Cool. It's extremely hyper-local as well, but I have 60% of the market that has downloaded the app.
That's good.
And and that's actually why I'm here this week, is to expand on that and take it to a new level. So I'd like to talk to you afterwards.
Let's chat, for sure.
All right. Thank you. Great presentation. In the spirit of 1 million cups, what can we in this room do for you?
Good question. Well, of course, you can download the app. I would appreciate that. And my email's up here. So if you download the app, I would love to hear what you think is missing, what you would like to see, what you like, but more importantly, what's missing, what you don't like. That's really valuable for me, and I will respond to you, and I would really appreciate that.
All right, and what hashtags did we use?
If you use hashtag nightlife, that's okay, or entertainment, but it's not going to be so targeted. Maybe just hashtag Orlando, so that it's most important that people in the area see it. So anything, Orlando, and just telling your friends about it. Maybe if one of your friends is interested in something like this, let them know that it's out there and tell them to check it out.
Would you like us to trend you with the names of the colleges too, that
Sure,
are local
you could do,
here?
UCF.
Okay,
Yeah.
and Rollins, of course.
And
We're
Rollins,
here.
of course.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
All right. Thank you. Thanks, guys.
All right, so we want to thank everybody for being here. Again, thank you to our sponsors, to Rollins for the venue, to Torch Studios for live streaming us, and okay, just a second. And then also for all of our organizers, and then Barney's for coffee. Again, thank you everybody for being here. We're going to use this time to wrap up, and you have time to chat with the presenters, and we have a short.
Very short. This is for Nate, actually. I have a family member who's a VP of R&D at a major laboratory company, and so I sent information to him during your presentation and asked him to take a look. And I sent him to projecthula.com, and this is what he wrote back. When I click on that link, it asks me to register for an invitation-only correspondence. When I Google Project Hula, he gets something about a secret program of World War II in which the United States did naval vessel exchanges. So if there is another way of being able to examine that app, then I would need to know about it, or I'd certainly encourage you to update the projecthula.com website. Okay, thank you.
Thanks again. So make sure you all get some coffee. It's still out there. We end up having to dump it, so we really want you guys to consume the Java. And thanks for being here. See you guys next week. Bring friends.
1 Million Cups is a weekly educational program developed by the Kauffman Foundation.
Over the years, we've added more cities. It creates a great energy here to see what's happening across the country.
What I've learned from other entrepreneurs is very, very valuable.
Sitting in a room with other people that have ideas too, it helps people to leave thinking, you know what, my idea is worth something. It's worth pursuing. It's worth going after it. Even if it looks like a challenge, I should still go out and try to do it.